Yo, 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 it is another fishing podcast, number 42, and boy, it's been kind of a crazy month. I did a podcast with Kevin VanDam. I filmed with him. I filmed his last regular season event. I did a podcast with him, also did a podcast with Devoted Outdoors. We're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about the Major League Fishing big news in that organization. Of course, the organization that is a bread and butter client of mine. So, you know, I got to be careful there. But a lot of stuff going on. It is, honestly, for me, I'll get a little bit of personal here. It's been kind of a tough month, so get a little bit into that. I want to also talk about a social media account that you're going to need to follow, and just what we have in store for another fishing podcast, Angling Uploaded, what's coming down the pike there. So let's start this podcast.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
All right. Well, I got my notes here because there's a lot that I need to cover. So if you're looking at the video podcast, which you can check out at Angling Uploaded on YouTube, check out the podcast there. The video podcast, if you want to check out that, if you prefer to watch instead of listen. But I want to go into what's been going on in my life a little bit, and then we'll turn to fishing news. And I always got to say, too, that doing these alone, I'm really missing my partner in crime, Pete Wagner, the co-host of another fishing show. If you've been so lucky to have watched any of our episodes, you can see those on Angling Uploaded on the YouTube channel, if you're listening. But, you know, so it's always a bit kind of strange doing these alone. But I think with time I'll get better, but I'd prefer not to. So if you are listening to this, you know Pete, reach out to him and say, hey, man, you should be co-hosting with Greg again. I don't want to bother him too much. I've asked him a few times, and he said he's busy. So I'm not gonna stress out too much about it. But I do want Pete back doing this with me. So let's just go through kind of Angling Uploaded news. This is what I kind of want to do every week when I'm not having guests on. I'm thinking when I have guests on is typically going to be when I'm off on a shoot. When I'm filming for Major League Fishing, if you don't know, I'm a videographer for Major League Fishing. So when I'm typically fishing for Major League Fishing, it's a week-long event. So when that happens, I think it's best to maybe have like a guest on, put a podcast up with a guest when I'm gone. So I think I'm going to try to get into more of that schedule. And when I'm home, do podcasts like this where we're going over kind of news, Angling Uploaded news, fishing news. When I say Angling Uploaded news, I'm talking about stuff that I'm filming, anything that's kind of interesting happening in the fishing realm here personally with the Angling Uploaded channel. But anything that, you know, just kind of is related to that. I think we're going to start off these podcasts talking about that first and then go into fishing news and some other stuff. But I think that's kind of the structure I want with this. This is going to be a work in progress, of course, but I'm happy that you guys are here listening, watching. I really, really appreciate this very much more than ever. So the reality is I need to make this into, I'm just going to be very personal here. I have made my job focused on the outdoors, specifically fishing. My first passion in life, honestly, has been animals. That turned into passion for fishing. So really what I've done with my career has been fishing based, filming, editing, doing on-camera work. It's all been fishing related because I love fishing so much. So what I'm really trying to do with Angling Uploaded is to make this a money-making venture. Now, of course, you know, I want to have fun doing this. And when you try to make anything a money-making venture, it can be less fun. So I don't want it to be less fun. But in order for this to be viable, in order for me to continue to be a freelancer, you know, as a freelance videographer, It gives me time to be able to do this, but I also need to, you don't always, as a freelance person, whatever you're doing freelance, you got to have a lot of your feelers out. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to have multiple revenues, sources of revenue coming in. So just for me, I want this to be bringing in income, because it's going to it's going to make my life honestly more stable. And you just, as a freelancer, you just, like I said, you got to have other streams of income coming in. You always want to be looking at different ways to make money. And I prefer to be doing things that I really, as far as making money, I prefer to be doing things that I really, really enjoy. And the internet is just this perfect, I love the internet in so many ways. Some things really drive me crazy. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. But I love the internet so much in the fact that it allows you to have freedom of content. Whereas, when I was doing primarily television programming, it's much more, it's more constricted. If you have an idea, you have to pass that idea along a number of different levels before you might be able to get a TV show. There's all kinds of different ways to make a TV show, but they're often based on having to sell your idea to a select few people. And I love the idea that on the internet, you can put whatever you want out there, your art, and grow an audience. Maybe not grow an audience. It's been very hard for me with social media because I'm stubborn and I want to put my own stuff out there, and I get mad if it doesn't get a lot of views. But I still love it, and I think for me, it's where I really want to focus. For bringing in supplemental income. So I'm really making that my focus. So please, if you enjoy what we're doing, we're going to be putting more content up. And please, if on Angling Uploaded, I don't know exactly how it works on podcasts, but if there's a way for you to like the podcast, put in a good review if you like what we're doing. If on our YouTube channel on Angling Uploaded, which is our YouTube channel, that's where you can find all the video podcasts. If you want to go on there and if you like videos that you like, all of that means a lot for the algorithm. And so anything that you could do to help us, more people to see us, that would be greatly appreciated. So we're going to really be stepping it up here. It's kind of, I don't know. I'm just going to be trying to be more like real with you here, because it's just the state of the world, just in general. I'm a little worried about the economy, more than a little worried about the economy. And I want to continue doing work that I feel passionate about. So that's why I'm really going to try to get this thing cooking here. So appreciate all the support, and let's get into this podcast. So, wow. So I did a podcast with Kevin VanDam, and it was one of those, I've worked with Kevin since 2000. I used to work for Bass Pro Shops. My first job right out of college was working for Bass Pro Shops. I really had to pester my boss there. I actually kind of had two bosses, one main boss, then a boss under him, sort of. And I just kept, in college, I kept on just emailing, or did I email? I'm wondering if we had email back. Yeah, we did have email. So email, and then sending actual physical letters to the video production department at Bass Pro Shops. I essentially, to make a long story short, I pestered them enough to give me an internship, which turned into a full-time job there, which allowed me to meet such greats as Kevin VanDam, among many others. And so that's how I got my foot in the door in the fishing industry, and how I got to know Kevin. And so I filmed the Bass Pro Tour, the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour this year on Saginaw Bay. The last Bass Pro Tour of the season was Kevin VanDam's last regular season event before retiring. And I was able to film him that entire event. So as a fan of fishing, specifically bass fishing, when I was younger, I was eaten up with bass fishing. I wanted to be a professional bass fisherman. And I still have, doing, videography for Major League Fishing. It's like the ideal job for me because I love being outside. I'm not good being in an office. And I get to be on the water and I get to be on a boat. And I just love all that. And I still very much love bass fishing. I'm not so torn up about the competitive side of things so much anymore, but I think that just happens with age. It's probably happened with Kevin, to be honest. So I'm being able to be out there, essentially in my element. And it can be a very taxing job. In some ways, it's dangerous. You're at the mercy of the weather, fast boats. But I really need that adventure in my life. And so that's why I enjoy doing it. But to film with Kevin as a lifelong fan of bass fishing, and then growing up watching him and just like studying him and wanting to be him, essentially, it was kind of like this bizarre chapter of my life, that I'm basically responsible, as far as in the sport of bass fishing, I'm responsible for documenting he was like the Michael Jordan. People said the Tiger Woods, it was easier to say Tiger Woods before Tiger Woods was, cheating on his wife for 80, with 80 women. So now I like Michael Jordan better now, that analogy. So we'll go with Michael Jordan. But, it's like Michael Jordan. Like you're filming Michael Jordan's last game. And so for me, there was a lot of responsibility there, I felt like, to make sure that I did the best job I could. And there was a time where I thought it was kind of funny, when you're fishing an 8-hour tournament day, there's going to be times where there's not a lot going on, right? If you fish tournaments, if you fished, that. You're not always catching fish. A lot of times you're not catching anything. And so I'll look at my phone. Kevin saw me looking at my phone, and he said, and he kind of said it jokingly, but I also kind of think that maybe he was saying, hey, this is going to be a big week for me, and we both need to be on our A game. So he caught me looking at my phone and was like, he basically said, what's so important on your phone? Something to that effect, And I thought to myself, it kind of stung a little bit, because I got caught looking at my phone. But I kind of thought about it. It's like, what? There's going to be a lot of still photographers. There's going to be, outboat videographers, documenting Kevin's last dance. And do I want, just myself, do I want to be, in pictures with, my phone out, and me looking at my phone? And then also, obviously, probably more importantly, does Kevin VanDam want his camera guy, in all the pictures looking at his phone? This is a momentous occasion. So to give you kind of an idea of what I'm talking about here, there I am filming Kevin VanDam's last regular season tournament, and you notice I don't have a phone. I have my, of course, to see this, if you're listening to the podcast, to see this, go to Angling Uploaded, go to our YouTube channel, go to Another Fishing Podcast, the, what do you call it? The playlist. Go there and to see this stuff. But there's me with my hat backwards. So the wind, it was so blustery, windy out. The conditions were really, really tough. The last day, oh my goodness, windy as all get out, and rainy. My rain gear failed in 5 hours. Like for 5 hours, I was completely drenched. So it was a very difficult tournament in the fact that I really, in my mind, I really wanted to shoot to the best of my abilities for Kevin, for the sport. And so there was that added pressure, the wind conditions, the waves, the rain. It was a very, very difficult tournament. And this video, or this still photo that I brought up here, shows you how big the waves were. You can't even see the hull of the boat. It was just very, very big waves, very hard to stay stable and to keep a stabilized shot. And when Kevin did his last soundbite at the end of the day, the waves were huge. And I just was like, I have got to keep this shot steady, because Kevin is saying his final thoughts for his final tournament. And that just carried a lot of weight for me. So this is a great shot. I'm going to be using this shot in a lot of, my videography promo work, stuff promoting my business, because, I mean, look how sexy I look. Goodness gracious. So, it's, that filming that is just going to be one of those, filming Kevin for his last event is just going to be one of those moments in life. It was like a chapter closing, and I was like, okay, I really need to ask Kevin if he would be interested in coming on my podcast, coming on another fishing podcast. And then because I knew we'd have a great conversation. I knew we had great history. Kevin hooked me, during the first Major League Fishing event ever, hooked me in the forearm very, very severely. So that was a cool, that wasn't cool to be hooked, don't get me wrong, but just to have those moments with Kevin, all the shoots that we've done together. I used to film for Mark Zona's Greatest American Fishing, what's the name? World's Greatest Fishing Show. I used to film with that, and I got to work with Kevin on that as well. But I've done retail videos with Kevin. So I just thought that asking him, to do a podcast would be stressful, because I know he's got a lot going on. But I thought that it would be awesome to be able to do that. And I didn't know exactly how I would broach the subject with him, but we exchanged during his last tournament. We exchanged contact information, and Kevin, during that time, I had been doing some stuff for like Instagram. When I can't use the big camera, the thing about these new iPhones, I got to tell you, just these new smartphones in general, they're so amazing. They're waterproof now. So, and the image quality is amazing. The image stabilization is amazing. They're really for a video guy or a content creator, a storyteller. All you really need, I am telling you this is a phone is really all you need. Okay, and one of my favorite sayings is that the best camera. People ask you, what's the best camera out there? The best camera is the one you have with you. Okay. It's a tool, and if you're a great storyteller, it doesn't matter what your tool is. You can tell it with anything. And these phones nowadays, these smartphones, are unbelievable. So I filmed a lot with my smartphone, did a lot of stuff for Instagram when I wasn't able to do stuff with a big camera, meaning crazy waves that would have damaged the big camera, water. I mean, that iPhone. I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max. that thing is completely waterproof, and and the stabilization on it is amazing. I don't have that stabilization on my big camera. So with my smartphone, I can get stuff that I can't get with the big camera. And, I'd shot a bunch of stuff, and Kevin wanted some of that footage. So I basically exchanged, information with him, contact information, and he reached out to me after the tournament, and I just asked him if he would come on the podcast, and he did. Sherry, his wife, is the one that actually does all the, scheduling for him. And Sherry, I talk about this in the podcast. Sherry is, she's like a coach and I mean, a huge motivator for Kevin. So I wasn't surprised that she actually handles all his scheduling. But so that's basically what happened. I scheduled a podcast through Sherry with Kevin, set it all up, and it was one of those it's just a bucket list item, honestly. I doing this podcast with Kevin, it just meant a lot, just to go through our history together. And it was just kind of a perfect bookend to sort of, in some ways, what felt like a chapter that was ending, in my life. So, Kevin's meant a lot to so many people. He's elevated the sport. He's made it so that it is a legitimate sport. People, I said this to him. I said, You basically, you showed people that fishing, bass fishing, competitive bass fishing is a legitimate sport because you're so consistent. So I thanked him for that. And I think I was speaking for a lot of people that grew up watching him. I just thanked him for the impact that he made on professional bass fishing. So it was one of those moments where, just doing that podcast with him that, I'm glad that I was able to say to him, tell him that, and just wanted to tell him how much I appreciated working with him through the years. So, but it's just kind of, it's those moments in life where you're just like, wow, this is one of those chapters sort of ending for me, but, obviously also for bass fishing. So it's kind of sad, but such is life. I also this was a lot of fun, did a podcast with Devoted Outdoors, John and Ashley Holmgren. So they are you have got to follow them on social media. So they are a legitimate, as far as a fishing couple, you think sometimes, the female angler isn't going to be as good as the male angler. The wife isn't going to be as good as the husband. And I got to tell you, John and Ashley, married, multi-species powerhouse of a fishing couple. I don't know who's a better angler. I'm legitimately saying that. And if you watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, I think you'll come away feeling the same as I do because, Ashley, she started out very early on in the outdoors, just like John did. And I just go on their social media, go on their Instagram, go on their Facebook. Devoted Outdoors is what you want to search. And you will see that they catch everything, and they're proficient at it. And so, I was impressed by these guys just, following them on social media. But other people have been impressed by them as well. And Clam Outdoors, other sponsors, it's not surprising that they now have a TV show. You can find them on Bally Sports North and Bally Sports Wisconsin. Great conversation with him. So I really want to encourage you guys to check him out. Follow him on social media and check out that podcast. Go to Angling Uploaded on our YouTube channel, or you can just find it here if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, all the major podcasting apps. I got to get some, this is actually water with a lot of, Mio flavor enhancement, because I don't just like drinking water. I like water that tastes like Mountain Dew, or I don't know what this tastes like, but it tastes, this Mio, this flavor enhancement, I put like 3 shots of it in there, and it's an energy, there's energy in it, and it's also tastes sugary, and that's what I like. I don't like just drinking water, so I'm sorry, I'm having to wet my whistle here. Okay, so let's see. I also have been doing some more content, just filming my fishing adventures, because I really like to fish and I haven't been fishing enough, and I'm trying to change that. And I'm also bringing cameras along to document my fishing adventures. And I did a video not that long ago, kind of the beginning of fall, where I was testing for the first time a Berkley Choppo. I can see now my long underwear sleeves. I'm actually wearing the same clothes that I did last night. Please don't judge. I was out catfishing last night, so I've got long underwear on, and it's showing. It doesn't look very. Let's see. It doesn't look very professional. How about that? Okay. But yeah, my long underwear. Would you call it a base layer? The sleeves are coming out. You can see the sleeves if you're watching the video podcast. If you're not watching the video podcast, that's what's going on, so I apologize. But, okay, I digress. So, where was I? So I've been filming about the start of the fall. I went out on the upper Mississippi River in my kayak and was testing out the Berkley Choppo. I believe it's the 105 size, I think. 110 or 105, I think, is the size of it. Pretty standard size for like largemouth, smallmouth. You could use a smaller. I use big sizes for smallmouth. So, I mean, I use even bigger than that. But that size was, I thought, the right size. It's the smaller. It's like, for the whopper plopper, I use that 130 size a lot. It's really big whopper plopper for smallmouth. It's like 2 sizes down from that I use. So the Berkley Choppo, I wanted to test it against the whopper plopper. I had also done a podcast with Dan Spengler, who he and his team designed that bait. And so I know a lot of pros that I've filmed are using the Choppo. I might have said whopper plopper. I meant Choppo, the Berkley Choppo. So I wanted to see what that was like, how it compared to the to the whopper plopper, how the Choppo compared to the whopper plopper, and I really loved it. I mean, honestly, there's some design differences. The what would you call it? That the back of the Choppo, I don't even know what you call that. The prop, if you will, has like a notch on it. And that's different than the whopper plopper. The Choppo is like a little bit skinnier. It makes a great sound. Does it make a different sound than the whopper plopper? I don't know. I'm not exactly sure about that. Maybe I'll do a video where we just test the sound, like what's louder. I probably should have done that in that video, but I also wanted to catch smallmouth, so. But basically I was fishing with this Choppo for the first time, and I just wanted to kind of, see how the bait was. I knew this time of year, you're getting into the beginning of fall, late summer, early fall, catch them good on topwater. So I wanted to get out there before the water got too cold, and I really love the bait. Honestly, it's a great bait. look of it looks great as far as just the attention to detail. Did not lose a fish on it. The hooks are great. I've had problems with the Whopper Ploppers hooks in the past. Different kinds of hooks on there, and some hooks bending completely out. So Berkley is using the Fusion 19 hooks on the Chapo, and with all of their hard baits, I had no problems with them. Sticky sharp. I did have one of the eyes come off. I hit a rock, which is a common occurrence when you're fishing for smallmouth bass, on the upper Mississippi River, and one of the eyes came off. I don't know that has happened with a Whopper Plopper, so that's hard to say. Eyes coming off is not a big deal, but I do wonder, and this is only going to be found with time, but I do wonder how the build quality is going to compare to the Whopper Plopper. Is it going to be as resilient? Is it going to be as tough as is the Chapo going to be as tough as the Whopper Plopper? So only time will tell on this, but I was very happy with it. It was fun. Caught a big, nearly 4-pound smallmouth, so check that video out. Also, let's see here. I did a Z-Man. Hey, have you heard of the Z-Man Hellraiser? Also did a video with the Z-Man Hellraiser, which is this really unique lure made by Z-Man that's got the blade of a chatterbait on the back. Right? So it's the exact same blade of a chatterbait, but they put it on the back of this topwater bait. And so I did a video recently. You can check it out on Angling Uploaded. Check it out on our YouTube channel. And the fish were not behaving as I had hoped. Now that we're getting later into the fall on the Susquehanna River, I have had plenty of experience on the Susquehanna. But on the upper Mississippi River, once you start getting more towards, kind of, I don't know, you're getting kind of more into the middle of October, the water temperature starts, really drastically changing, dropping here in Minnesota. And once you get into like the upper 60s, mid 60s, that top water bite slowly starts to end until when you get into the low 60s, it's like non-existent. And unfortunately, I kind of timed this video a little bit late. And it's, I still had some blowups on the Hellraiser, but I really caught more of them on a tube, just slowly, well, not slowly, just jigging a tube on the bottom, Texas rig tube. But first time using the Hellraiser, I share my impressions of it. I think it's going to have some cool applications, just something different for pressured fish to see. And that bait, though, the first thing you're going to notice when you're fishing it, it sinks. That bait sinks. That big nose on that Hellraiser is what planes it to the top. And that blade of the chatterbait sinks the butt of it down, and it waddles as it's going through the water. And that long nose of the Hellraiser, it planes it up to the surface, and that whole thing just kind of shimmies and rattles. The bait rattles itself. So it's a very unique bait. I'm excited to try it, but I need to try it when, I keep on saying Susquehanna. For the Mississippi River smallmouth, we want that temperature. Honestly, water temperatures in the 70s, mid 70s are like phenomenal. So that's really when you got the best, mid 70s, low 70s, mid 70s around there, really great topwater fishing. That's when I need to hit it next, for smallmouth. So with the Hellraiser. So, but still a good video. I caught a very, very big walleye. Well, for me, it's all relative, right? I get wound up with like I notice in my videos, I exaggerate all of my fish catches. I think they're huge. Whenever I'm filming anglers, hooking up and saying, oh, it's a big one, and it turns out to be a 1 pounder, I find and I laugh about it. I do the same thing. Or I'm like, oh, this is a giant, and I'm calling 3-pound smallmouth giants. I'm calling, I caught a 5-pound walleye on this Hellraiser video. I'm calling that one a giant, and I know there's guys that have caught 10+ pound walleyes and blah, blah, blah. It's all relative. I just, at least it's the thrill is still there for me. Like, and I'm exaggerating everything. Like I just got started fishing. So, as long as I'm still feeling like a kid when I'm fishing, I don't think anybody has room to complain about my getting overly excited about fish catches. All right, so let's see there. Now, I've been kind of like debating, whether I should talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. All of this, so I come from an old school background of television production, right? And so social media, I've tried to make social media like television production. So like just basically saying, oh, I'm going to make our social media Angling Uploaded. It's just going to be like we're just putting television shows on there. Well, here's the reality. Social media, YouTube, and I guess it's been, I don't know why it's taken so long. It's just because I'm old school, man. I'm 47 years old. But it's just taken me a long time to really realize that, the social in social media is for a reason. And that it's a social, it's a community, right? It's much more of a community on social media and interacting. It's what makes it beautiful, really, quite frankly. And I've been so hung up on this old school idea of video production and bringing that to the internet that I forgot that I didn't realize that I'm like, this is like, the internet also can be a great way for people to come together. And, socially, I think it's good to also meet people in person, and I need to do that. Like, there's some people that I feel like know well or better on social media that I really need to meet in person. But the reason I'm saying all this is because I want to be more just kind of open about some things. I'm a private person, but I think being open about some things is helpful in that it kind of shows that in many respects, not in many respects, in all respects, we humans are all in the same boat, right? So television production, really, most television production really tries to make things look glamorous and polished. And it has to be to a certain extent. As far as polished, you only have so much time to do things, right? For a 30-minute show, it's 22 minutes. So you really got to cut stuff down and condense things, right? You don't have a lot of time to flesh out ideas or get to know people more. I think social media, I think the internet is brilliant for that. Joe Rogan, his podcasts are a perfect example of this, where you get to know people on a much more deeper level. And so I want to do that with this podcast. And part of that is you guys getting to know me a little bit more. And so it's the last few, I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit personal stuff here, but the last few months have been really tough. Really tough. And we all, like, I don't know a single person who doesn't love dogs, right? And I had to recently put down one of the most magnificent creatures that has ever walked the face of this planet. And this is, it's kind of funny. Her name is Cinnamon. We had to put her down recently. She's a Chiweenie. She's a Chihuahua dachshund mix. And I'm getting kind of broken up because I'm putting a picture of her up on the video podcast. But we've known for a few months that she was kind of going downhill, and we knew that we would have to put her down. So it's just been very, very stressful. And anybody that's ever had a dog that's, like a big dog and has said, you know what, I don't like small dogs, or if you've ever heard anybody say that, or if you've said that, you haven't met Cinnamon. She was just she was a go-getter, and just one of those dogs like you just, you fall in love with really quick, because she's just got she had the best personality. So that has weighed on me, and we had to put her down a week ago. So dogs really are an important part of one's life, and this is one of those dogs that I will love forever, will always remember. And it's just one of those chapters that is closing that I'm gonna really miss her, just her being around, and I'd take her up north with my wife up to my in-laws, and they live on a little lake, and it's just all those times up there. I know she just was a fantastic dog, and I know I've seen on Facebook other friends, they've posted when their animals have passed away, and so I wanted to share that with you, because I know this is very relatable. And there's just something about dogs, especially a dog that really steals your heart, that they're not easy to get over. So Cinnamon is going to be one of those dogs that is not going to be easy to get over. So that happened. This it's been a week since that happened. So, but I did want to bring that up just. Because that's been really something that's been going on the last few months. It's been difficult, but I know that other people have struggled with that, and so it's something that I know if you're a dog lover, we all have to go through, and they're just the greatest, man. So also, and this is just life. I'm bringing this up, but there's just a lot of stuff going on. While I'm trying to make content, and I'm flying to other places, to go film. But my mom's health hasn't been the greatest, and my mom's in an assisted living facility, and so that's been weighing on me as well. It's just been a very, very tough few months, and my mom she's been just one of those people. She took me to the Bassmasters Classic in 1994, which is a long time ago now when I think about it. But she's been very supportive of my fishing, and she's having some health issues right now. So that's been weighing on me. But also a friend in the fishing industry, someone who's I've worked with a lot, and also I've their family. I've spent a lot of time with her family. They had a tragedy happen recently. I'm not going to get into it, but it's terrible, terrible stuff. So that, coupled with world events. If you know me, if you've listened to these podcasts, I keep up on current events. I've been a news junkie all my life, politics, and it's just a very stressful time. There's a lot of things happening in the world. So all of this stuff, I wish, that I could be blissfully ignorant. but it's just not in my nature. So all of this stuff kind of weighs heavily on me, especially coupled with all the stuff that's happened in the last 3.5 years. It's happening now in the world. It's just, it's been a lot of stuff going on that's been difficult. So I'm trying to power through. As I talked about earlier, I really want to get this YouTube channel, Angling Uploaded, another fishing podcast. I want to get it to a place that to me is, honestly, I think maybe the best word is legitimate. Like it's a legitimate thing instead of just once in a while I do it. I want to be more consistent. I don't want to be more consistent. I want to, and I need to. So it's made it. It's just, life is a struggle, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not so great, and it's everything in between. It can be everything in between, and you just gotta do your best to get through those tough times, and everybody goes through them. And so I just want it. I guess more than anything, the reason I'm saying this is if there's anybody out there that might be going through tough times, I want you to know that tough times are part of being a human. And there's going to be times where you're going to get grounded into the dirt. Grounded? You're going to get ground. You're going to get ground into the dirt. And it's part of being a human. And so you're not alone. And, that's why I wanted to bring that up. So happier days are going to be in front of us, but for now, we got to do our best to get through these difficult times and be positive. Positivity is the most important thing. Try to keep a positive attitude and do things that are best for your health, both for your body and for your mind. That is critical. So with that, let's get into the fishing news. Fishing news, here we go. All right, so big changes at MLF. And as I said earlier, I am affiliated with Major League Fishing. I can't be too controversial here because I have worked with the organization since the beginning. They've been very good to me. And I have many friends there, and I am not going to talk smack about an organization that, honestly, it's just been very good for me. So I'm just saying that right off the bat. I'm going to try to shoot you straight here, but I also kind of, I'm not going to talk ill of an organization that has been so good to me. So, but with that being said, big changes at MLF. And so we'll just kind of go into it here. Every Fish Counts is back. And I have mixed feelings about that. I don't necessarily think, so when you fish, right, we're, as fishermen, I think most fishermen, we want to catch fish, but really what we're trying to do best, is to become, this is a tough one, but we want to catch big fish, right? So big fish there needs to be an incentive with big fish. All right. It shouldn't just be, the incentive isn't just catching as many fish, because it's easy to catch. I shouldn't say it's easy. It's easier to catch small fish than it is numbers, of big fish. So that has been my criticism. I think changing to a variable weight was a great idea. Moving that weight up, I think, made a lot of things, made things better. And so, but I also think for Major League Fishing, it's important that they don't just, focus so much on, our thing has been every fish counts. Well, that's fine, and I'm fine with them going back to every fish counts. Just make sure that it's like that variable weight, you're balancing between, the excitement of lots of fish catches, but also not incentivizing catching smaller fish. That should not be an incentive. There should be incentives to catching big fish. So as far as, what is Major League Fishing known for, right? They're also known for the score tracker. They're known for every angler that's competing, them knowing how their competition is doing. Score tracker is a huge deal. It's a big feather in the cap of Major League Fishing, so and just the catch, weigh, and then release, way better for the sport, okay? Weigh-ins really need to go the way of the dodo bird. I have no doubt they're harmful to the fisheries. As, I love seeing big fish, lip and grins, but you can do that in other ways, okay? While it's happening, during competition, big fish lip and grins, as fishing is getting more popular, as forward-facing sonar is getting more widely used, we really need to be protecting our fisheries more. I think the catch-weigh release format that Major League Fishing is really pioneered, is the way to go. And I think that needs to be emphasized. So every fish counts, okay, they're going back to it, fine. But remember, Major League Fishing, you're more than just every fish counts, okay? That catch-weigh release, the score tracker, those are big deals. So according to Kathy Fennell, who is the general manager, she said that viewership growth was stagnant on 5-fish format. So they're going back to the 5-fish limit. That is their reasoning behind it. Also, the 2024, that's next year, okay, Bass Pro Tour format will be different. Still 40 anglers on day 1 and 3, still 40 anglers on day 2 and 4, but only the top 10 from each group will advance to the knockout round. So instead of the 20 from each group, so it was 40, right? So now it's 20. So to the knockout round. So that's a big deal. And then also in 2025 so I got to get some water here, or orange water, or Mio water. This is getting kind of intense here. The BPT in 2025 will have only 50 anglers instead of 80. And so Boyd Duckett was quoted as saying basically to this effect, focus will be on a small group of top performers and make them the most visible in the sport. So I think as far as cutting down the anglers, you're cutting down 20 anglers. That's going to make people not happy. I think it's also going to limit the amount of camera guys in the field. And so that could affect me. So I'm saying this as a person that is, all these changes are probably going to affect me. So would I like things to stay the same? Yes, I would like things to stay the same as they've always been. But that's not life. That's not life. When I hear people complaining about how something's changed or, I wish it was this way, that is just not life. And it's fine to complain, but, and granted, I am really good at complaining, but there comes a time where it's best to prepare and be ready for changes. And so I don't know how Major League Fishing's financials are. As I said earlier in the podcast, I'm concerned about the economy. I know I'm not the only one. There are tea leaves that people are reading that show very, very ominous signs ahead. And I'm sure people within Major League Fishing can see these. If I can see them, if I'm hearing things, certainly the leadership of Major League Fishing is seeing these things, hearing these things as well. So Major League Fishing is a business. BASS is a business, okay? As much as we all would like stuff to stay the same, in business, if things aren't working out as well as hoped, or, and I don't know the financials of Major League Fishing, but if things aren't possibly going in the right direction, enough money is being made to film, to cover, to run a professional bass tournament organization is extremely expensive, okay? To cover a bass fishing event is one of the most, it's got to be like maybe the hardest event, professional event to cover. It's just a vast playing field. There's a lot of moving parts. Then you have all of the Major League Fishing boat officials. There's a lot of expenses, okay? So with the economic situation it appears that we're in, and it's going to get worse, I think. I don't think you can just assume, or it's not reasonable to think that if a company is looking at possibilities for economic hardships coming down the pike, or things haven't been as good financially as were hoped, that you gotta stop. You gotta start tightening things up, right? And that is business, that is life, and unfortunately it's not fun and no one wants it to happen, but it's what business is. It's in order to keep businesses alive, there's cost cutting, there's people that get fired, it sucks. But unfortunately it's life. And when I hear people complaining about certain things, I totally understand it. And from the angler perspective, granted, I feel for the anglers that are not happy with these changes, and I don't know that part of it as intimately, obviously. But I know this, that if any organization wants to stay afloat, they have to be smart, and they have to be good with money. And if things aren't, if there's things that have to be cut. Unfortunately, they have to be cut. And that may be what we're seeing here. So, and if that's the case, to keep the organization alive, then it is what it is. Que sera, sera, So I don't mean to be flippant about it or like callous. I don't mean that at all. I love the organization. I love the anglers. Most of the anglers, like I said earlier, many of these people are my friends, okay, that work for Major League Fishing. It's a great group of people, and here's the reality: there's a great group of people at Bass. This whole one of the things that drives me nuts about the sport of bass fishing, I've wanted bass fishing to be a mainstream sport, and you basically got Bass and Major League Fishing just cutting, they're kicking each other in the nuts. They're squaring up with each other, and they're kicking each other in the nuts. Maybe the whole thing will merge and everything will be better. That's really maybe for the sport of bass fishing, MLF and Bass merging. That's what we need to do. Because really what's happening right now is the two organizations are stealing from one another, stealing the limited amount of money that can be had, for bass fishing, competitive bass fishing, professional bass fishing, and they're just taking from the same trough, and no, it's mine, and it's just like for the sport of bass fishing, to make it mainstream, that ain't good. And so, maybe my ultimate dream is that the two merge and become this unstoppable force. Maybe it's a pipe dream. I don't know. So anyway, let's move on. And as far as the top 50, in any sport, okay, I'll say this about bass fishing. What makes bass fishing great, competitive bass fishing great, pro bass fishing great, is that there's a lot of people that can do it, right? There's a lot of people that can do it as far as physically, there's just, it's a greater group of individuals is able to do it as opposed to the NFL, which it takes a very elite athlete to be able to compete at that high level, right? With bass fishing, you can be older, you can be, overweight and still be called an athlete. So it's a much bigger pool of anglers. I'm not calling them athletes, not going to do it. So you have a much bigger pool, right? And the reality is, so the great thing about pro bass fishing is that you have a bigger pool of anglers because it's less limiting. But the worst thing about bass fishing is you have a greater pool of anglers because it's less limiting. It's not the worst thing about it, but it's a problem. And so you need to be to make this thing a professional mainstream sport, you need to be getting this thing whittled down. So you really focus on the top. You got top guys because they rose to the top. The cream rises to the top, and then you promote the hell out of them. But of course, there's got to be a structured, legitimate way that they rise to the top. I don't want any favoritism. I think that's nonsense. You earn it to be at the top. And so 50 guys, and that's probably a cost-saving measure too, If this is all based on financial stuff, I don't know. Or it's a concern, for Major League Fishing. 50 guys, come on. That's a lot. That's a good group of guys, top guys, can promote them better. It makes a lot of sense to me. All right, so now we've got through the more controversial stuff, and so we'll just go into kind of what's going on here, upcoming content. You know what? No, I haven't even got to. No, we're not done controversial yet. We are not at all done with controversial yet. So, Al Lindner, who is, honestly, he's a hero of mine. Started In Fisherman with his brother Ron Lindner. The best in its day in the 80s was a phenomenal magazine. I still love the magazine. I still love Doug Stange, who is the editor of the magazine. He's a phenomenal writer. My favorite writer. In Fisherman, so Al and Ron started In Fisherman. They started the magazine. They started the television series. And it's just, if you're a multi-species guy, there's no one better, honestly. There's In Fisherman still to this day, I think is still awesome. But in the 80s, they were on fire awesome. And a lot of that has to do with Al Lindner, okay? So he had this is from Target Walleye, but he had some comments recently that was very interesting. And, Al is old school. I'm old school. Al's old school, right? He's seen all kinds of technology through the years. I think started In Fisherman in the late 60s. So he's seen a lot. He's seen flashers and then all the evolution of a flasher, fish finding technology from there, right? So But it's interesting. So Al spoke recently with the NPAA, which I believe stands for the National Professional Anglers Association. The president, Patrick New, I think it's pronounced New. This was in a press release. So they spoke recently about forward-facing sonar and the implications of it. Some people call it live sonar. And this was interesting. So Al Lindner said this in this conversation he had with Patrick. Technology never goes backwards. So this is not going away. It has been a real revelation in terms of learning about fish movement and the reaction to lures and baits. It shows the number of fish in various locations and the direction they are moving. It allows anglers to uncover and explore what used to be hidden sanctuary locations where we never suspected the fish might hold. The technology is amazing. It is changing the way people fish and making them more productive than ever before. That brings up the question of if we are putting too much pressure on the fish stocks we pursue. Let me say that again. So that brings up the question of if we are putting too much pressure on the fish stocks we pursue when employing forward-facing sonar. So yeah, like Al is concerned about forward-facing sonar, and I'm amazed by the technology. I don't have it because I don't have enough money to afford it, but not yet anyway. So it's incredible. It's incredible technology. I've seen it used on several, all the pros are using it, in Major League Fishing. And I've seen it. It's a remarkable technology. It's an incredible, incredible tool. But it might be one of those things that it's maybe too incredible for there not to be regulations. And honestly, more and more I've become like anti-regulation, just in general with things. This one, I'm like, So Al goes on. He says, the harvest levels and damage to crappie populations on some very popular waters around the country have been staggering because the fish can no longer escape our vision, especially when they winter in tight schools. It used to take some effort to stay on crappies when they moved. That is no longer the case when you can use forward-facing sonar. Some crappie populations have been greatly impacted. So yeah, in the summertime, they can group up in the summer, I think, too, in locations, but really more so in the winter. I live on a little lake, and this lake can get decimated in the winter just without forward-facing sonar because in winter, crappies group together in very, tight formation, and you can just go through a population of crappies. When this lake is popping, it's a town out here on the ice, and they can be whittled down in no time, the population. So very, very interesting that Al is saying this. Muskie is another species taking a hit, expands Lindner. These used to be the fish of 1,000 casts. Now you move around with your trolling motor, look at the screen, and they stick out like a sore thumb because they are so big. You cannot miss them. And when you find them, you many times catch them. So I've talked about this on podcasts with, the Devoted Outdoors guys, John and Ashley Holmgren. They do not use forward-facing sonar for muskies. Pete Mena, legendary muskie fisherman and friend of mine, he does not use forward-facing sonar with muskies. It is a technology that it's amazing, but it's also concerning. According to Lindner, many people in the fishing industry are seeing similar results, and he, like New, believes that forward-facing sonar technology is now beginning to take a bite out of the walleye fishery as well. Both agree the time for fisheries managers to act is now, preemptively, before the effects of forward-facing sonar technology are compounded by greater availability, additional improvements, and more usage. Yeah. It's really powerful. It's really, really powerful. So Patrick New, he's the president of the National Professional Anglers Association. I believe that's right. the NPAA, I believe that's what it stands for. What we need right now, this is him, Patrick New. What we need right now is to make the appropriate state agencies and fishery managers aware of the extra stress and possible increased mortality rate this new advancement may have on specific fish populations in both freshwater and saltwater environments in the near future. At NPAA, we believe the time to act is now. Open seasons for harvest, possession limits, and length regulations all need to be analyzed for the species that are proving most vulnerable to this new technology, and we need to adjust those parameters accordingly. So I got this from Target Walleye. Lot of great information on Target Walleye. It's a newsletter. You can find them on social media as well. Check them out, Target Walleye. I get a lot of great information from them, and this is where I found this article about Al Lindner and Patrick New talking about forward-facing sonar. And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had, especially with fishing getting more popular. It's only getting more popular. This technology getting more popular and less expensive. It's going to be more of an issue. I'm getting more and more to the point where I used to want fishing to be mainstream. I wanted it to be popular and cool. I've always thought fishing was cool. More and more, like for me, fishing, what makes fishing good, like fishing, when you go out to a fishery, whether it be a lake, river, reservoir, ocean, pressure, fishing pressure is what makes fishing difficult a lot of times. So I am worried about the fishing pressure that is occurring with more people becoming involved in fishing and now becoming involved with forward-facing sonar. I am all for fishing not becoming more popular, not becoming a mainstream sport. I don't need any more people fishing. What we have right now is great. We don't need any more because I've I've felt this. Honestly, how often? I'm just being honest here, okay? I'm being completely honest here. Every single fisherman, when they see someone on the water near them, is like, "What are you doing here?" There's a few exceptions, but for the most part, do we really want more people on the water? Okay, first question. And do we really want more people on the water having eyes that can see the whole water column? I'm just going to end it on that. I love people. I really do. I love people. Okay? I really love fishing, and I really love good fishing. All right, so upcoming content. Here we go. I did a video recently with, if you have not seen this bait, I'm telling you, you got to get with it. This is the 6 Sense Panorama. This is it's like a soft jerk bait. Honestly, what it is a gizzard shad. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a gizzard shad. It's a perfect replica of a gizzard shad made with very soft plastic, very thin, and it is the gizzard shad color of the 6 Sense Panorama looks exactly like a gizzard shad. I mean, exactly like a gizzard shad, right? So I recently bought the 6.5-inch version of the Panorama. I fished it like a soft jerkbait. There's a lot of different ways you can fish it. You can fish it on a Texas rig, all kinds of ways, okay? But I fished it on this particular outing. I fished the 6.5-inch Panorama as a soft jerkbait, and very, very impressed with it. Really think this bait has got a lot of uses. It looks incredibly realistic, as I had said, And the benefit of it, using it as a soft jerkbait in super clear water, you can fish it very erratically. I talk about what I do in this video that's coming up. It's actually, I'm going to post it next Thursday, October 26th, to our YouTube, Angling Uploaded, at 4 p.m. So you'll have to check that out next Thursday. But you'll see how I work this bait as a soft jerkbait. It's different as a soft jerkbait than regular jerkbaits. You gotta, I go through it. You gotta work it really fast. You actually real fast to, I'll get into it. Watch the video. But where this thing shines as far as a soft jerkbait, when you kill it, and it's so darn realistic, I think it's going to trigger fish that would not trigger on a typical, like a Zoom Super Fluke or something. So check that out. That's coming up. Also, I went on a trip actually last night for channel catfish on this body of water. I'm not going to talk about where it is anymore because I really am getting more protective of this body of water, as I'm noticing that the size of the channel catfish in this body of water is increasing. So it's the channel catfish are getting bigger in this body of water, and I love big channel catfish. I love catfish, and it's not just about everybody's likes to focus on big flathead catfish. People should also focus on big channel catfish, just channel catfish in general. They're a great fish to catch. And that's what it's one of my favorite things to do. So I go up to this body of water, and in the shallows, you'll find them in the summertime. Just suspend a chunk of shrimp underneath a float, cast into the shallows. This happens, I think it might happen all summer. What I found out last night, that it's happening through fall. It's happening in 55-degree water temperature. It might be happening even later, that they're still in, they're shallow, but they're moving out they seem like they're going a little bit deeper now, 5 to 6 feet. I found them last night. It was supposed to just be a daytime shoot, went into the evening. That's going to be posted November 2nd to YouTube, Angling Uploaded on YouTube, November 2nd at 4 p.m. So check that out. Lots of fun. I'm going to be going up there more. I'm going to see how late I can catch these guys. Shallow, basically. I'll say anything 10 feet or less is shallow. Okay? That makes sense? So that's coming up. You'll have to check that out. And then, before we go, getting ready to wrap up here, I do want to focus a bit on who you should be focusing on social media. And we'll do this every week. Someone you should focus, or you should follow on social media. If you're not following Tiny Boat Nation on Instagram, that's where I'm following them on Instagram. But I'm sure they have, a Facebook account and a YouTube channel. These guys take the picture I brought up on the video podcast is a pond prowler, okay, a Bass Pro Shops little plastic boat pond prowler that they have completely decked out. They put like sea deck, decking on the top of it. It's got a bow mount trolling motor. It's got 2 graphs on the front. It's got a manual power pole that they design, right? Tiny Boat Nation has all of these kits that they're designing their own stuff. You can buy these kits. They've got a remote power pole, okay? It's not like you do it yourself. So it's not, it isn't battery operated or whatever. It's not, it's not hooked up to a battery. You actually do it by hand, but the thing is amazing. So check out all of their customizations. Tiny Boat Nation, really amazing account you need to follow. They're doing really cool customizations on tiny watercraft. So that's it. That is the podcast. Podcast, is it 42? Do I have that right? Yes. Podcast 42. We are really going down the road here, man. We're gonna get to 50 here soon, so we'll have like a party. It's if you want to send me some cake, I'm a big time ice cream cake fan. What else do I need to cover here? How did you find us? If you're listening to us on Another Fishing Podcast on all of the major podcasting apps, you can find us on YouTube. Go to Angling Uploaded. That's where you'll find the video podcast. Go to Another Fishing Podcast on the playlist there on our YouTube channel, Angling Uploaded. Just search it. Super easy. Also, Angling Uploaded on Instagram. Okay, so if you're watching the video podcast, if you want to just listen to us, go to any of the major podcasting apps, go to Another Fishing Podcast, search it, and you will be able to find us. So, guys, I've got to run. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the support. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like it on YouTube. We're also, here's the other thing we're doing. We're also going to be on Rumble, right? I'm getting a little fed up, more than a little fed up with the censorship that is happening on YouTube. A lot of censorship. We have overlords that want to dictate how we should live our lives more and more, really clamping down more and more. I'm getting fed up with it, and YouTube's kind of doing some stuff that's ticking me off, quite frankly. So I'm putting our stuff also on Rumble, right? Rumble is a free speech, absolutely free speech platform. So I'm going there. I'm putting our stuff on there as well. Just search Angling Uploaded on Rumble. So appreciate it, guys. I wish I need to come up with a catchphrase. Until then, have a good one.